Hey there YouTubers, right, so in this video going to update the BIOS on this Aorus Elite AX Z690 motherboard. Now you can apply these techniques to any Gigabyte or Aorus motherboard that allows this way of updating the BIOS. Check out my other video if you want to do it, update the BIOS through the BIOS. But basically, what do you need with the motherboard? Let's set that up first. So 24-pin power connector, that's going to power up the motherboard, all right? Then we have, I've got it plugged in. I'm not even sure you actually need it, but 8-pin CPU power. Obviously, we've left one of the other ones open. There is no CPU in there, so that might not need. Power supply over here. Need to understand how to turn this on and off. Right now, that's off. And then you will, of course, plug it into the wall. Now, one of the interesting things is your choice of USBs. I had a couple different ones here. Didn't have much luck with these two. This one is a USB 2.0, and so this is the one we're going to use. It is formatted to FAT32. That's very important, FAT32. You may find some of your other ones will not allow you to format to that, and you will not have any luck with it. So what do we need now, folks? We need a BIOS file on this. Let's go find it. Search in Google, and you want to make sure, folks, that you get the right motherboard. All right, so that is mine right there. Now if you were going to search for something else, a D4 version or the non-Wi-Fi version, you know, maybe you delete that if you didn't have the Wi-Fi version. If you had D4, you know, change that to D4 or DDR4. All right. Or if this is a Gigabyte model, you know, changing out the model number to what that is. But like I said, you'll be able to follow these instructions because they are pretty much the same for every motherboard. All right. So we're going in under this one. If you go in under another one, same place, regardless. Over here, support. Once again, you're going to go over here, regardless of the motherboard that you put in. Downloads, drop down to BIOS. And you can check what it says over here on description for all the different versions. We're going to grab F20. But you can see with F7, which is the one below it, that they provided support for next generation Intel processors, right? So this one specifically says 13. I do know F7 works because I've been using it for the other BIOS update video I did. And now we're going to download this. And so that'll pop up down here, all right? All right, so we're going to go down here and show in folder. That brings this up. Now we have another BIOS in here. I'm going to delete that so it doesn't distract us, as well as this folder. So I obviously do this for more than one. All right, so the BIOS folder that was downloaded, you're going to extract all. And then out of this is the only file in here that we need. We're going to copy this over to our thumb drive, paste that in there, all right? Now we're not done with this yet. And I'll show you why. All right, so like I said before, folks, click on Properties. Make sure that says that it is FAT32, all right? Right there, FAT32. Now, going back to our BIOS. Hey, there I am, folks. It's almost gym time. You're going to come up here. So you see where we were, download, CPU support. We want manual. And then if you look at this, you know, different languages. Over here, we've got different descriptions. We want to go into English, unique features introduction, okay? So English, this one, and we're going to pull this up. Now, why am I doing this, folks? Well, this is going to tell you that you have to rename that file, all right? And we must find the method to do this. So obviously you guys could find this on your own, but so it says gigabyte bin, all right? That's what they want you to rename that file. Now, it doesn't say to leave the F20 at the end of it. I did that in another video, but we are just going to rename the file like it says, all right? So that's gigabyte capital letters bin. So we're going to click, I'm going to turn on cap lock. Now, does that matter whether it's capital? I do not know. I have not spent time trying to figure out how to break this thing. So we're going to hit enter. Do you want to change the name? Yes. Now, if this does not work, we'll go back and we'll do this with bin.f20, all right? But this should work. Now, let's go take this file and take it to our motherboard. All right, folks, so very important that we plug this into the right one. And that's the one on the bottom, all right? So plug that in. And I added some lighting, but looks like we need this lighting. So, once again, may not need this plugged in, but I did anyways. We've got that plugged in. I have a little power thing in there. We don't need that. This now needs to turn to the on position. Okay, you just might have noticed a little flash there. Plugged into the wall. Alright, so what you're going to do is come over here and hit this button. This is your BIOS button. This other one is the reset button, okay? You don't want to do that one. Make sure you're doing this one. Alright, so let's zoom out a little so you can see where my finger is. And if you're doing a different model, like a gigabyte, it may only have one button on it. Just make sure if it has multiple that you're doing the right one. So we're going to click this. Okay. Power supply turned on. That light's on. This is flashing. That's a darn good sign, folks, that it's flashing. You don't know how many times I've done this. Screwed up one step or another. It'll turn on and then shut off, but you won't get the flashing. So this is going to take 6 to 8 minutes. I'm not going to bore you guys too much with that, but one thing I will tell you is talk safety-wise. Make sure that you're not going to have any issues with power. If you know that you've got a hurricane out there, and actually the remnants of the hurricane that hit Florida are hitting us, but hopefully we won't lose power. If you have some concern and you have a UPS, uninterruptible power supply, good idea to use that. Using something like this wouldn't be so bad because this is only going to draw somewhere between 10 and 40 watts, I'm sure. So big old battery like this will last forever almost. Going. So, other details. Noticing the description in the BIOS. Do you really need to update the BIOS? There's lots of reasons to update in BIOS. Most of you are checking out this video most likely because you do not have a 12th gen CPU, and therefore you don't have the ability to go into the BIOS and update it as you sit there and wait to use your 13th gen. This is the best way to do that if you don't have a CPU installed already. Or potentially, if you bought the i9 12900KS, you may have had an issue where you needed a BIOS update. But 13th gen, this works great. We've done this on a few motherboards already. I have only made, this is probably the second video that I've made of this. And it's, really simple. It's going to take probably 10 to 15 minutes if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, probably take you longer to get that out of the box and set up, right? But It's still flashing. And yesterday, I think right at the 8-minute mark. So what's going to make it take longer to do a BIOS update? The more revisions that you see on there, because they're going to pack a lot of revisions on there. And so what happens, right? You don't need to go in there and update, F5, then F7, and then F20. You just want to grab the most up-to-date, as long as the description doesn't say, hey, you need to do this earlier one before you can do the later ones. Which, I haven't seen too much of that, but it does exist. So, once again, folks, if you go in and let's say there is a more up-to-date BIOS version in F20, you'll want to grab that, okay? F20 is just because that, at the time of this video, November 12th, 2022, that was the most up-to-date BIOS, alright? I'm going to pause until this thing's done. Wait, this motherboard is going to eventually have the i9-13900KF in it. It's previously had the i7-13700K, which I actually ended up selling, so we're making way for the big daddy, right? And so this motherboard, while it's not a Z790, it's a pretty darn good Z690. I think when these came out, they were somewhere in the 250 to 300 range, and now I picked this up for $199, so pretty good deal. And it looks like, folks, this is going to take all of the 8 minutes to do this BIOS update. So if you are following this video and have a different Aorus, whether it's a B660 or a Z790 or Z690, just make sure that you go to the right product page, that you download the right BIOS. As long as you do that, folks, you should be golden. Alright, so it stopped flashing. Lights on. Eventually this thing's going to turn off, okay? Let's see if we can get both these at this angle. Now usually I use a camera stand, folks, so don't hold it against me that I'm running around with this cell phone in this video, but honestly for this video it makes the most sense. And the fact is, this took me only about 15 to 20 minutes to film this way instead of having to editing. So that's done. Lights off, no flashing over here. You are good to go, right? This thing's not going to wake up and reboot like it would if you were doing this update from the BIOS. So, folks, if this helped you out, please like the video. Maybe even leave me a comment. If it sucked, let me know as well. But if you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. Thanks you, and have a good day.